I am super excited today to have with me Laura Hernandez. She is a surface pattern designer from the Dominican Republic, and she hosts a really amazing platform on YouTube where she gives tutorials and surface pattern tips in Spanish for Spanish-speaking designers, which is really awesome. She also has classes in surface pattern design and tutorials and all that kind of stuff on her website. So I actually had a lot of fun recently chatting with her for her channel, and I wanted to learn more about her background, and I'm excited to have this interview. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's
Of course.
exciting
Yeah.
to do it backwards.
Exactly. That's the
Yeah,
thing. When I get interviewed, I'm always like, but I want to ask questions too.
yes, that's
So it's
true.
nice to have that opportunity. So to start us off, can you give us a bit of background? Tell us, how did you begin your journey in surface design or arts, the arts?
I studied fashion design in the university a while ago, and I work in the apparel industry for 10, 12 years. And after I have my second baby, I wanted to shift to a more creative side of the fashion industry. I work in the technical side, in mass production, in product development, quality assurance. So I wanted to work in the creative side. After I had my second baby, I wanted to get a project of my own that if I wanted to quit my job, I can do it. And I started designing for parties, like a custom kids' birthdays stuff, like the paper things that you use for birthday. I was designing that, but I did it in Photoshop, and I knew I had to do it in Illustrator. At college, I remember my favorite class was the fashion digital design, and I did everything in Photoshop because I was afraid of Illustrator. And I knew I had to like learn Illustrator and pass that fear. And when I stepped into Skillshare and started learning Illustrator, I ran into surface pattern design class with Bonnie Christine and Mel Armstrong and other designers, and I fell in love with that. I realized that I studied fashion design because I love fabric, and that was because I love the patterns. So I started as a hobby. It was as a hobby first, like doing patterns because I wanted to. And then I thought that maybe that was a career I can try if I wanted to work for my own.
I love that. So you were working in fashion, but it was more, like you said, it was kind of more technical. It was
Yeah.
more like, were you like drawing the bodies, or were you doing like figuring out? I mean, I I have worked in apparel, but I obviously don't never have done the technical side of it. So what kind of things were you doing?
No, I was working in the factories. I was
Okay.
working in product development and quality assurance in the factories, and we received the the specifications from the brands, and we had to create the samples, like the whole product development process, like create the sample and sort of the materials, and then go to mass production and make sure that everything was within the quality standards, and then ship it to the brand and everything. Yeah, like I learned everything from the concept and design until the garments are in the store. Like when you see them in the store, I know that whole process. But I do love that part of fashion, but I wanted a creative side.
Yeah, no, I get it. I definitely get it. But that is such valuable background information
Yeah.
in this industry, and being able to see kind of both sides of the things.
Yeah.
So so then the interest was kind of sparked in that you were looking for something more creative, and then you just kind of discovered it. What made you realize that you kind of wanted to start your own business and kind of get away from your full-time work?
I wanted to have more time for my family. I realized that working a 9 to 5 job, it's a 9 to 5, but I work from 7:30 in the morning to 6 p.m. in the afternoon,
Ooh,
and it was a lot of time.
long hours.
And if I needed to take my kids to an event on school, I couldn't. If I needed to take them to the doctor, I couldn't. So I wanted to make more time for my family, like work in my own terms. Like if I need to have 1 week off because my kid is in the clinic or something, I can do it. And I wanted to build some career that I can teach my kids that you have to love what you do. I didn't like my job. I didn't like the environment where I was working in, because then I realized that I do love product development. In fact, I teach about product development and fashion. I have a side job right now that I teach about that, and I do like that. But the environment, I didn't like that. Like the thing that you have to do what someone else is telling you, and you have to do it like their way and everything. I wanted to have like more time to do the things that I like.
Yeah, I mean, that makes so much sense. I think that is such, I have heard it be said that like the most underutilized workforce is moms, basically, because often there is so much responsibility for moms to try to get their kids to the places and whatever, and
Yeah.
and but we have skill sets too, obviously. And so either you're working full time and you can't do all that stuff, or you're not working and
Exactly.
you can, but then you're like not using all the parts of all your skills. So it's I did not become a mom until I was already working freelance and working for myself, and that's one of the reasons that I do love this job. It's I remember being frustrated as I mean, still am, let's be honest, still am frustrated as I was growing my business, that like, I wasn't making as much as I was making when I was working full time. But everyone just kept reminding me like, yeah, but think of all the flexibility. Like, think of how much you can, I can just, anytime I need to pick up my kids, anytime I need to do anything. And when I was pregnant and all that stuff, I didn't have to, like if I felt sick, if I needed a nap, like whatever, if I wasn't feeling good, I could just go ahead and do that and just take the time and do whatever I need to do. So that like flexibility is an amazing asset for, while it is not easy to build your own business by any stretch, having that flexibility is such a important part of that I value so much in this business. So I know from experience that starting a business is not easy. I've talked about it many times. Let's talk about what you learned, working for a company versus how you had to kind of pivot and change for working on your own.
Well, the thing that I value the most is that when you work in a job, it doesn't matter that you're working in McDonald's or if you are working in a big company, you have to learn how to do the little stuff. Because little stuff are things that will help you get through the big stuff. Like you have to do big little steps first. For example, if you in your company, in your business, need to do an invoice, and if you don't know how to use Excel, for example, Microsoft Excel, you will not do it. Or if you have to make a letter to someone and you don't know how to use Word, or you don't know how to serve coffee, or you don't know how to be a host, those little stuff are great. And also the teamwork. When you work in a company, you have to work with a lot of people. When I work in a battle, I used to manage big teams of 10 people, 20 people that were working with me. And that is, to be honest, that's one of the things that I miss about working in companies, that sometimes when you have your project, you are alone. You don't have anyone to talk. You don't have anyone to like make a joke or laugh about something. I have my kids, for example, in Dominican Republic, every company in Christmas, they do like a Christmas party or a Christmas dinner. And my company's Christmas dinner is ice cream with my kids or something with my family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I want to celebrate that. But when the thing that I value the most is the working teams, the team job, and learning how to do the little stuff. Because when you have your own project, you have to be everything. You have to be the receptionist, and you have to call everybody. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be, for example, I run the studio and the platform, the Happy Pattern, and I have to be the one that sends the email. I have to be the email marketer. I have to sell the products of the brand, and I have to create the blogs. I have to create the content for social media or for YouTube, and I had to learn how to edit videos, how to create, for example, reels, and I have to learn everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sometimes people say, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to do the other thing, but I had to learn everything. I had to learn how to design a website, because I wanted, when I learned that if you want to be a surface pattern designer professionally, you have to have a website. I was like, the website that I have, I wanted to be a professional website where I can host my courses as well. And when I asked the prices, it was like 3K,
Oh yeah,
4K.
to
And
get
I was
someone to
like,
design it. Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, I cannot invest in that right now, because if I invest 4K in a website, what is the return I will have right now that
Right.
will give me that money back? And I cannot invest 4K for something that will be sitting for months.
Mm-hmm.
I started to learn how to design a website, how to create a blog, how to create a YouTube channel. And I think that when you learn how to do the little stuff, when you have a big company or a big project, and if you hire someone else to do it, you can supervise what are they doing better,
Right.
and you can do things better.
Yeah, I think that's true. Having, figuring out, yeah, you wear so many hats when you're an entrepreneur, and so figuring out all that stuff. And one thing that I would say, like, that has one of the hardest adjustments, I think, is that in all my previous jobs working in-house, after doing it for 6 months or a year, you start to see the patterns, right? I mean, I'm a pattern designer. I can't help it, right? You start to see how things go, especially if it's seasonal, like when I worked in apparel, it's like, okay, every fall we're doing this, every spring we're doing this. You see the patterns and you can prepare for those, and you can make things more efficient. You can make systems, you can make, ways that you can do things that make your job easier. Now, then I come into working for myself, and it's always something, right? It's always something new, and you're learning so many skills, and it feels like there's never a point where you can make things easier, because you're not always sure which direction to go. Right now, I feel like 10 years in, I do have something like, I'm consistent with YouTube videos, and I'm consistent with newsletters and stuff like that. So I have processes around that can hopefully make them a little bit easier. But for so long, I was just like doing all these different things to try to figure out how to build my business, and it was always something different. So I couldn't streamline. Like, you just have to just keep going.
Keep going, exactly. But that's a good point of view, because it's true, in companies you have systems in place, and you have, yeah, that's a good way to see it.
Yeah, systems make things much easier, but you have to figure out your own when you're starting, or potentially if you learn how to do something through classes or whatever, you might have some a starting off point. But no matter what, you still have to some degree figure out your own situation. So that can be really tricky. So do you have any advice for designers who are looking to branch out and begin their own business while working full time? Because you made that transition, tell me a little bit more about that transition, and kind of how you made the jump, let's say.
The first thing that I will say is don't quit. without a plan.
Don't quit your job or don't quit anything. You just got to keep going.
Don't quit anything without a plan, because a lot of years ago, like 12 years ago, I wanted to be a fashion designer and everything, and my dream and everything. And I did quit from a great job with a great money without the clue of what I was going to do, only with a dream that I will be a huge fashion designer. And I remember that my husband, in that time, my boyfriend, he was like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this? Because you're not thinking it through. And I was, yes, I will be a great designer and everything. And when I felt like hard, and I was like, that was like you couldn't do that. And I learned that you have to have a plan, because you have responsibilities, you have expenses, you have everything. Even though you live alone and you don't have kids, you don't have a family, or you have your mother and your father that are supporting you, but you have to make a plan, because what happens if you dream to do something and you quit your job, you quit your stability, and when you start doing that, you don't like it. It doesn't mean that because you dream it, when you have it, you will like it. Maybe you don't, okay, you dream to be a huge surface pattern design and licensing your designs and selling everything, and you looking at your designs and products, but you don't like to draw, or you don't like to sell, or you don't like to talk to people. And you have to try it first, like to it's like an exam. You have to try it first, try it bit by bit. I think that people should plan in little steps, and do the little steps, and then plan ahead. For example, this time when I decided that I wanted to branch out and work for myself, I talked with my husband, and he was like, I don't think that will work, because the last time you did it, it didn't work. So he refused it, that I did it, but I make a plan of 3 years, and I save money. I started learning everything about surface pattern design, like the technical side of it, then the business part of it. And I get to do like my website, collections, my portfolio, like to have everything ready in the studio side, like ready for me to start contacting brands and everything. And then when I decided that it was the time, I remember I was afraid, because in the company that I used to work with, my position, it was not a low position. I was in the middle position. I was like supervising, but I was in the manager shoes. Like I had to manage the team of product development and quality assurance, and I had to respond to the factory, and I had to respond to the brand, and I had to respond to the suppliers. So if I quit, for me to quit, I had to train someone for 6 months before I quit. And I was like, oh my God, I want to do this jump before my kid goes to school. He was like 2 years, and at 3 years he will go to school. And I want to have time with him at home before he goes to school, because the older one was in school. I want to live that with him in that moment. And I was telling my husband, it's not time yet. I cannot do it. I'm afraid it's not time. Every time that I needed to talk to my superior, my boss, something happened. Like I have an event, I have to travel to New York, I have to meet someone, a supplier would come from China. Like I had to do something big in the company, and I couldn't talk to him. And I remember something happened that they decided to cancel me. They fired me, and I was like, what? Like this is the moment. This is nice for me. I remember when they called me to human resources to tell me, Laura, we are sorry, we have to let you go. I was happy. And they was like, why are you smiling? I'm telling you that I'm letting you go. And I was like, yes, this is the moment. This is for me. And I was crying because it was sad for me. It's for like letting go in a time in my life. I had 5 years in that company, and I was happy. I was texting my husband at that time, like, they are canceling me. They are firing me. and I'm happy. And I was like, that was a Friday, and in Monday I started my studio. I was working in my studio. I at 8 in the morning I was working, and my
You
husband
were
was
ready.
like, you are not taking a time, you're not taking vacation. I was, no, because everything is ready. I had the
Mm,
website, I had the collections, I had everything. And I remember that day I started to contact brands and getting in the shoes of
I
having
love
the
it.
studio. Yeah.
How long ago was that?
In 2018. So that's
Okay, all
4 years
right.
ago.
So
Yeah.
so you've been doing this for 4 years now,
Yeah.
and so it just kind of worked out. I mean, you were
Yeah.
working hard towards it, not to say that it
Yeah.
just, you were
Yeah.
working
Because
hard towards it, but
from 2016, then that I decided that I wanted to do this like as a career. I remember I mentioned you in your interview that for example, if I work from 7:30 to 6 p.m., when I
Mhm.
get home, I cook the dinner for the kids, then I play with them or do homework, did homework with the bigger one. Then I put them to sleep. Then I sleep until 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning. Then from 4 in the morning to 6 in the morning, I was working in my studio, like
Mm,
designing collections or doing blog posts
wow.
or planning the whole week. Because something that I um, learned in my old job is that you can plan everything.
Mm,
Someone once told me that people used to lose time doing little stuff, like you are doing and seeing Instagram, watching Instagram, and an hour goes by, and you
mhm,
are watching a television show in Netflix, and 8 hours pass by.
mhm.
So he told me, if you take 1 hour a day to do something you want to do or to learn, 1 hour a day or 7 days a week are 365 hours in a year. You
Mhm.
can do something else. And
Yeah,
then with that in mind, I planned what I was doing 8 hours a week or
right,
16 hours a week. I
right.
plan 16 hours a week that I have to create a new collection or work in the website that I had to have the website ready. Or if I wanted to have a spoon flower store, I work in that. Like I was planning, for example, in Sundays, I used to plan my whole week. This week, I have to achieve this, and that.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. It's like I was I had the benefit of having, a full, like, I just kind of went for it. I didn't plan so much. And so, which I probably should have, but that meant I had, 40 hours a week or, the whole time to really put all my energy into it. And and that's, you have these huge lists of all these things to do, and it's
Mhm.
it's really, I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't know if there's any way to avoid kind of that hustle and that extreme, like, planning and lots of things to do when you first get started. Because now that I've been doing this for a while, like, I'm more like, I want to chill out more. And I want to find more free time and do less work and all that stuff. But like, all my students are just getting started, and I don't know that there is a way to avoid that kind of hustle at first. But I think the good thing is that when you're getting started, you're so enthusiastic and
Mhm.
excited about all the
Yes,
things that are
yes,
happening
yes.
that it's not, it's, it's a lot of work. I mean, what you're describing of those long days of working and hanging out with your kids and doing all those things, and then waking up super, super early to do
Yeah.
everything else. Like, that was a large sacrifice. Like,
I,
but
I I remember that not every day I wanted to get up early. Like
mm,
sometimes there was 4 in the morning. I was like, I don't want to get up.
yeah,
But then once something happened one day at job that I was frustrated because I didn't want to be there. I was like, I don't want to have this job. But I was grateful I had a job because it would be worse if I didn't have
right.
the money. But I was frustrated and I was crying the whole day. And I remember my assistant told me like, do something you like then. And that that mindset was the thing that helped me get up early in the morning. Like sometimes I
Mm,
was like, oh, 4 in the morning, I don't want to wake up. And then I have to because I'm frustrated, because I'm crying, because I have to do this, because I want to change something. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah, and it gets you set up for your day, right? You have more energy in some ways because you're excited about the things. Even if you're not excited about what you're doing in your full-time job, you're excited about what you've been doing on the side. So I do understand that. And I mean, I definitely spent some time outside of work. It's not that I never did like overlapping work. You know, there was a time in my career when I was working for a home textiles company, and the type of work that I was doing wasn't very much like my style. It wasn't fun. It wasn't cute. It was just like very traditional home decor stuff. And so I was making my own cards and trying to put together like a card line and designing all this stuff. So it's like I would go to work and definitely come home and do that stuff and try to make it work. It's funny, you know, all the things we have to try and experiment with to make it work. So digging into mindset and confidence, I mean, I think we've sort of touched upon a little bit of this because you're just telling about, you know, how you kind of overcame that getting up early. But once you actually were thrown into it because you were let go, and then you were started that Monday morning, how what are some of the things that help you gain confidence in your business and staying persistent at the beginning? You know, how did you have that confidence? I mean, I guess you had that plan and you've been working towards it, but where did you find that confidence when as someone getting started?
I think it's curiosity because I am a emotional person, and I get emotional when someone don't like my job. I had to learn that not everybody will like what I do. Not everybody will love my job. Not everybody, not all my designs will work for someone. I had to learn that. And when I get beaten up because I receive a negative response, or if someone says no, or I contact someone and they didn't respond, I think that the curiosity of what will happen made me be persistent. I still have like imposter syndrome when I say like to myself like, this doesn't work, you are not a great designer, what do you think you are gonna do it? But then I remember that there's a lot of designers doing it, a lot of designers working this and thriving and having licenses and having their designs on product. And I have the curiosity, like, what if I can do it? What will happen? Like the curiosity, like sometimes I when things are not like I plan it or are not getting what I want, sometimes I want to leave it like, let's do something else, or let's be a mom in my house and I will forget about working. And my husband says like, on Monday you will be back at it because you like this, you love this. You love the curiosity of what will happen if a company says, I want to license this collection and I will print it. So I have the curiosity, and I think that makes me be persistent.
I love that. You know, that's really my business coach often is talking about like getting curious, like because I'm not that curious.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I guess I am in some ways, but you know, it's like any reaction that I have to something of like, yeah, being frustrated that things aren't working out, or being envious of somebody else's career, or being even like positive things. It's like, she always says like, get curious, think about why are you having that reaction? You know, why are you envious of that person's career? Why are you upset that they didn't like, you know, kind of it's a way to sort of dig into your feelings a little bit more. And I can see how that could motivate you to keep moving. And you make such a good point about about taking things, being emotional, taking things personally. I mean, I think that's such a universal thing. And that is what I always say has been like one of my biggest lessons from working in-house, that I was lucky to have the experience that I could very easily see and understand how my work was being used, you know, for a product, for commercial, you know, I basically, I was never holding it too close to me because I was doing what other people are asking me to do. As I said in the, for like the home decor company, it was often not really even my style. It was very traditional. And so I was just doing what I was doing. So then when I made the transition to doing more my own things that I liked to do, it was still, you know, in support of earning money with my art. So it was still never that personal to me. And that is, you know, that has served me in my career for sure as well, is like not taking it as personal as I know some people certainly do.
Yeah.
So, so something that I love to talk about with other designers, because we need to get this out in the open. And I know we talked about this a little bit in when you interviewed me as well, is, you know, being transparent about pricing and income. What are your thoughts about this? Now you've been in this industry for a while, I know. How do you decide on pricing? How do you remain confident to charge clients that amount? Like, where, you know, talk to me about pricing and income.
The first thing that I did, I remember when I started, was to calculate my hour basis, like how I will be charging people. I calculated based on my expenses. I don't live in the United States. In my country, we use our currency, it's not dollars. So for me, it can work to be paid less than you, for example, that you live in the United States. It's like when someone lives in New York, it can charge more than when someone lives in another part of the United States, it can charge less. Then I remember that when I calculated my hourly basis, it was less than the average of the designers in the United States. Then I raised it. And I remember you saying that surface pattern designer earn less than graphic designers, and then I don't remember the other
all kinds of advertising, all kinds of other
exactly. And then I recalculated and I raised it again. And I was like, based in this base, in the base price, I will calculate the amount of money that I want to charge. Sometimes I get nervous. I still get nervous when I have to tell someone my prices, because I say, okay, they will get frustrated, they will get mad, they won't like what I'm charging. But then I remember that there are designers that are charging the industry standards. So I try to have my prices in the standards, because it's not, I think that it's not fair for me to charge $100 for a great design when I know that I'm hurting you, for example. For example, you have, if you charge 500, it's disrespectful for me to charge 100, because I'm hurting the standard. So I, at the beginning, I tried to investigate a lot about prices. I love that Porsche had the Facebook group about pricing, because we can talk openly about prices. I know that in the other groups, we can talk openly and people will respond. But in this group about pricing, you can ask and they will tell you. And she does the survey and the average, and that's great. Because I know, for example, in my platform that is for Latin America and Spain and Europe, I know that prices can change. For example, in Latin American, prices are not the same as in United States or in Europe. And I get a lot of questions about that, because I have students that say, okay, for fashion industry, this company is paying me $200. And I was like, okay, the industry standard in the fashion is up to $600. Now, you want to charge 200, that's up to you. But for me, it's not fair. So I try to put it in the standard. The first time I had to give a client my real prices, I was nervous, because I remember my husband helped me with the prices. And when I calculate the collection, it was a collection of 6 designs. And my husband was like, okay, your base price it was $200 for each design, for 6 designs. He was like, double it. You will ask 400. Because if you ask 200, they will lower you and it will be in 150. And that's not the price you want. You double it. And I remember that working with that client, when I sent them the prices, it was a client in Dominican Republic. In my country, this is not a career. This is new. And there is a few people doing it. So the companies, the brands are not used to this kind of situation where I have to charge them with my real prices. And I was nervous about it. And when they come back and tell me, okay, we are okay with your prices, we will pay as you are telling us. And I was shocked.
Yay.
Because I was like, you are telling me that you are gonna pay me what I'm telling you. I was like, wow. And this client has been with me for the past 4 years. That was my first. That was my first client. We renegotiated in the second year, and right now we work every year. I work every year with them.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, gosh, pricing is so hard. So for just to back up for anyone who's watching, if you don't know, Portia Monberg has a Facebook group called Fair Pricing for Surface Design, and I'll put the link to that in the description. That's a great group, great resources. I have some videos with Portia as well where we talk about pricing and things you need to know about pricing. So definitely check those out. But yeah, you know, I think, gosh, pricing is so hard. And I have to say, I mean, I struggle with it. Like, it never gets easy, right? It doesn't really get easier. For a long time, you know, I think I definitely know that when I started quite low, because in some ways I was thinking of, sort of like the hourly version of creating versus, you know, the actual like value of the whole pattern. So it's like, I know this only took me 4 hours, and I know that, you know, when I was working in-house, we would pay freelancers like, you know, $40 to $50 an hour. So therefore that's a, you know, a $300 pattern or something like that. But realistically, I know, you know, that I could charge more. So I started low. You have to keep moving up. That's important. But I will say, it's like now when I give prices to new clients, I have found, now here's something that's been happening to me. I don't know if this has happened to you yet, but here's something that's been happening to me. So I used to always, you know, the great thing about surface pattern design is you often have repeat clients, right? Because you know, they have multiple products that they continually need. So it's like, once you get a client, you get to work with them over and over again. So I have lots of clients, that I've been working with for years, and it sounds like you do too. But now I've been getting new clients, and I've been really bringing my prices up, and everyone's like agrees with my prices, and they will do the job with me. But then they do the one job. I'm not getting so much repeat work. And I'll tell you, I don't know how to handle it, because if client work was my main focus, then the way I would handle it, and the way I would recommend, if anyone else is dealing with this problem, here's how I would recommend checking in, you know, oh, I have some availability, you know, keeping up with that client and saying like, how are things going? Like, I love doing that project. How did those products come out? You know, just continuing to basically remind them of.
I learned that. For example, for this client, I do that.
Yeah.
When I know that they will need art, I text them, or I send them an email like, hey, I'm working in this.
Yeah. Keep yourself top of mind.
I do that.
So that is how I would approach this normally, but I'm also like, part of me is not totally sure how much client work I really want to be doing. You know, like, obviously I spend a lot of time with doing like teaching and YouTube videos and all this kind of stuff. And then I also, you know, I'm working on my licensing portfolio. So client work, while that is like, has always been a huge part of my income, like the biggest part of my income, you know, I'm also like not trying to chase it right now. So I'm like, okay, I just don't know what to do. So I'm like, it's kind of like,
let it flow.
Yeah, that's what I'm just going to go with the flow.
It will come. Yeah,
that's what I'm doing. I'm just going with the flow. But I have noticed that, and I wonder / assume that it has something to do with my prices, and that I would be getting more repeat clients if my prices were lower. I do think that, and I don't know if that's true or if that's just my brain. getting,
I I think that with prices, this is something that you have to learn, because I'm not saying that if you are a new designer, you have to charge a big amount. If
right.
what you feel comfortable, because maybe you don't feel comfortable saying a client that you want
Yeah.
to charge $100 for a pattern. But I don't feel right that a company will tell someone, okay, I will pay you $100 for 10 designs.
Yeah,
That's
no,
not that's
no,
not a price, you know.
no,
But I think that people should feel comfortable with
that's
the
true.
price. You have to be in a price mindset, because
I do.
money is different. I have learned that money is different for everybody. I learned that sometimes people in my country say, no, your prices are too high, but I have clients that pay that high. I have
Mm-hmm.
clients that pay what I'm asking you, and you are saying no. So
Mm-hmm.
money is not the same for everyone. Everybody. So
Yeah.
you have to make peace with the amount of money that you want to earn, because sometimes I remember my brand manager for the Happy Pattern was telling me, we will invest this amount of money in something, and I was like, what? And she said, okay, you need to make peace with money and
Mm,
be comfortable with what amount of money you want to have come in.
mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, if you say, for example, Elizabeth says that she will charge $2,000 for a full buyout, and I will be like, wow, $2,000. But if someone will tell me, I will pay you 2,000 for this design, I will be like, really? I can earn that? So people have to be in the right mindset with money,
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's
Yes.
not the same. I'm hearing someone that is making that amount of money that I want. It's not the same as I'm making it. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that it's not that you have to charge less or more. Because, for
Mm-hmm.
example, I have companies that I have that if I tell them my price, they are in love with my design. They
Mm-hmm.
love my collection. They ask me for my password protected portfolio where everything is in there, and then they say, okay, we will like this, and this. What's your prices? And when I tell them my prices, they say, oh, my art director says that that's out of our budget. And I am like, oh my God, like I'm crying inside of me, because I know
Mm-hmm.
it's not a middle price, it's a big price. So yeah, I too have to struggle with that. I think
Yeah.
all of us struggle with that
That
part.
is such, I love that. I love those points. Yeah. That's kind of, you know, when Portia and Pippa Shaw and we did a talk about pricing and things that you needed to know, and that is like, that's kind of number one is understanding, yeah, the worth of your art and getting your mind around it, because it really does, you know, everyone has a totally different perspective about money, and getting your money like mindset in order. And there are books about it, and there are classes about it, and there are coaches for it and whatever, but getting your mind right for understanding the difference and thinking that what you're creating is worth that money, even when it might feel like, especially if you're coming from a different country or something where it's like, well, that just isn't normal pricing. You know, what to somebody is worth $50 to another person is worth, you know, $3,000. And it's like, yeah, you have to, it can sound so far away, but I totally agree with you of like, you have to start where you have to start. Like I you know, if you start low, then that is, but just make sure that you continually raise your prices. That's the advice that I always give. It's like, you should be raising your prices with every new client. With if you have clients that you've been keeping for a long time, like try to do it yearly or at least every 2 years. You should be raising your prices, because it's not fair. You're getting better every day. It's not fair that you're still charging that low price that you charged, you know,
Exactly.
3 years ago when you first started or whatever. So I love that. But yeah, it's total, whew, it's
Yeah,
always a mind thing. So
it's
it's
a
like, I'm like,
topic.
wow, they accepted my price, yay. And then, but then when they don't call me back later, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of work, and then there's not. Again, I'm at a sort of a point where I'm like, well, I guess I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do all that work. So I'm kind of okay with it, but also, does that mean I'm charging too, you know, you get in your head, but you just kind of gotta, you know, finding that confidence is so important. So I love
Yeah.
that. All right. We talked about this a little bit, but you know, I tell people that, you know, putting your work out there doesn't have to be a huge scary thing. We did talk about how I said that one of the most, you know, the greatest lessons that I learned from working in-house is not to take my work so personally, but you said that that's something that you do have struggled with before. Do you have any tips for how have you kind of overcome that, or how have you been able to sort of work around that? Because obviously such a big part of this business is not hearing back or not getting the job or whatever. That is just part of the business, that whether you're the best artist in the whole world or not, that's part of the business.
At first I felt bad because I wasn't hearing from everyone. And I made a mistake because I started contacting brands before I was ready. And I know that. I am aware of that because my husband always joke about my designs, because he says, when you started, you put a pineapple in front of the other. Like you put a pineapple next to the other, next to the other, next to the other, and the whole designs was a pineapple in one position. And he said, it was cute. Sometimes I show them my pineapples and he said like, what is the excitement about that? And I was
I like this guy. This guy's got a lot of good advice. I think I'm going to interview Mr. Hernandez next.
Yeah, he was like, what is the excitement about this? I was like, I was drawing this. And he was, yes, it's cute, but continue growing. And at the beginning, I started contacting brands and I wasn't hearing from them. Or they say your work is colorful, but it's not ready, or you are not ready. And I was like feeling bad because I was excited about it. And sometimes I check my emails and I found an email from 2018 and I'm like, oh my God, I sent this to this brand. Oh my God, this is an embarrassment, because now I understand and I have grown. And at the beginning, I felt like furious about they say no, and it was because they didn't like me. But then Brenda mainly says in one interview that they are human. They are human. They have feelings. They have a lot of emails they have to answer. And I said, you know what? Let me try to put myself in their shoes to see what happened. And yes, sometimes I get, for example, if I get rejected in a studio that I like, sometimes I met a studio in Sortex and I love them. They love my work, but they had a designer with my style and they cannot have two designers with the same style, and they say no. And I did understand that. Like, I understand my art was not for them in that moment. Like it will not work.
Exactly.
It will not work right now. That doesn't mean it won't work in tomorrow, in 1 year, in 6 months. So I understand that. I also remember when I took the immersion course in 2018 with Bonnie Christine, Mabel Tan was with me in that course. And like 6 months after that, she started to have licenses and selling her designs. And I was like, wow, this is nice. This is great that she's doing it. And I remember in an interview, she said like people were rejecting her, or brands were rejecting her, or she was pitching like the devil. That's what she said. And I asked her, I sent her an email and I asked her, do you really have people saying no to you because your art is wonderful and you are licensing? And she said, yes, like everybody has. Not everybody for it will be the best designer. Every designer has their no their rejections. And I asked her, what do you do when someone rejects you? And she told me, well, I may feel bad for a day or two. I can get relaxed. I play with my son. I get a Netflix show. I get ice cream, and then I get back at it. And I was like, that's a great advice, because it's like the same that my husband says, like, cry for a day or two, but your curiosity will hit back, and on Monday you will be back at it. I learned that because it's not personal. At first I took it personal. Like, I remember when I went to Sortex, there was an art director that rejected me like 3 times. And I was like, I don't want to meet her because she rejected me. And my husband says, Laura, when are you going to get this opportunity again to meet all those people in the same
In one
place?
point, yeah.
Go to her and say hi to her and introduce you. And at the end, she didn't remember she rejected me. And I was
That's
like,
the thing. It's like you just see so much stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it's not personal. They don't hate me. They don't hate Laura. They don't hate the human
And
being.
they don't hate your art either, honestly.
No.
It's just not for that moment. And that's
Exactly. It doesn't work.
exactly.
For example, I right now I have like 300 company contact. That I have the contact of more than 300 companies because I have been doing this from 4 years. And I realized that it doesn't work for everybody. It will not work for everybody because, as you said before, there is a style, for example, a traditional style that you don't like, and maybe if a company has a traditional style and my style is graphic style, a colorful style, it will not work. So maybe I love that brand. Maybe I dream with having my designs on that brand. Maybe one day it will happen, but it doesn't work. So maybe why we have to push everything? We have to let it go, like let it fall.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I agree with all of that. That's such great advice. And I would also add, you know, when you said that you think you started pitching too early, honestly, you didn't. I think you started pitching at the right time, because even if your art wasn't at a point where maybe people would accept, you started forming those relationships. And that's why I'm always recommending people, like, start now, because guess what? You're learning to pitch better. Like, you know, you're getting used to it. You're getting used to that rejection. You're getting used to not hearing anything. You are, you know, learning.
You are learning how to, you are practicing how to speak with people.
Exactly.
When I went to Certex, that I have to speak with people face to face, I was like, I have to say hello to Shannon. How old? And I remember when Shannon saw me, she was like, Laura, how are you? And I was like, freeze. But I was training how to speak with people, how to speak with companies.
Yes, exactly. So you were while you were developing your portfolio and your skill set, you were also developing your pitching skills, and that's what you need to do to move forward. So amazing.
Another thing that I learned is that there are people. You are sending emails to people, because I had an email this year, like I was 2021. No, it was 2021. I think it was last year. I sent an email to a company in 2018 and they didn't respond. And they respond last year, 3 years after. She was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You sent me an email and I didn't answer you. I'm so sorry about that. Can you send me a link to your portfolio so I can see it? So there are people, they can miss it.
Yes, exactly what I tell people too. Yes, it's like the reasons that we imagine people don't respond is they hate us or they hate our artwork. The real reasons that people don't respond is it gets lost in the email. They like it, but then they get distracted because they need to do 14 other deadlines. You sent something for Halloween and they're working on Easter right now, so they don't have the time to get into it. You know, there's like 1,000 reasons why people don't respond, but it's never I hate this person or I hate this design. Like it's just not.
And you can ask them questions, because we are afraid to talk to them. Like, he or she is an art director. I cannot make a relationship.
Yeah,
with
like
them.
it's like the president or the queen or something, right?
But you can ask them, okay, if I'm sending Halloween because it's in October and maybe you're in spring, you can ask them, okay, I'm sending you this, but can you tell me what are you working on? Or when can I submit my designs? Or do you have a schedule? When are you starting with Christmas? Because I tell my students, for example, that you have to have different themes. But if you're a designer that you love Christmas and you only want to do florals and Christmas, you can ask them, when are you having to pick Christmas or florals or everything? And they will tell you. They will give you that information.
So yes, agree, 1,000% agree, all of that. Well, clearly I could talk to you forever. I feel like we but tell me now the most important thing that I'm curious about. Tell me about Happy Pattern and, you know, why why you kind of started that and what is inspiring you about that platform at this moment.
Yeah, let me tell you, when I was in fashion business, I always wanted to teach about digital fashion illustration, because in the 12 years that I work in fashion, well, in apparel, I was freelancing about digital fashion design. I did like digital flats or with illustrations, but as a hobby or a freelance. And I wanted to teach in 2 schools here in Dominican Republic, but the opportunity of teaching never came out, and I let her go, let that go. When I started investigating, searching about all the topics about surface pattern design, I wanted to share what I was learning, like sharing everything that I was learning. And if I learn a new technique, I wanted to make a tutorial or a blog post. If I buy my tablet, like the drawing tablet, I wanted to share that information, and I started a blog. But if I wanted to do that in English, I felt like in English it will be lost in the sea, because there's a lot of people talking about that.
Right.
And I realized that in Spanish there was a little information about that and few information. So I translated to Spanish and did everything in Spanish. The thing was that I couldn't do it like Laura Hernandez, because I didn't want my website to be in both languages. Like my website, for example, I know that in Latin America, in my country, people have products and they use patterns and they use illustration, but the bigger clients are international and they speak in English. So I didn't want my studio to be in Spanish. So I cannot have like in both languages. If you see my Instagram as Laura Hernandez, like the designer, it's in both languages, because I have people that follow me in Spanish, but my main focus is in English. I have people saying, like, why are you speaking in English if you speak Spanish, if your native language? If you're saying that, you are not my focus, like you are not my target, because my target is also in English. So I wanted to teach in Spanish, and I wanted to have a new platform. Like the happy pattern is like el patrón feliz, or los patrones felices, but I didn't want to have it in Spanish. Weird, the name is in English, but the platform, I said that the name is in English, but it's referring to patterns. Like people can know it's about patterns, and it's happy, and I love everything that has to do with patterns. And I wanted to make the platform like where I can share in the blog, I can share all my experience and have articles about my new tablet or my iPad or sortes or creating a collection. And then in 2019, I opened the YouTube channel, because I wanted to share tutorials and do video blogs, which I haven't do, but I want to share video blogs. And then I wanted to teach. I started creating courses in 2018, but they didn't sell, nothing. But it was good, because that teach me how to make courses and how to teach and how to be in front of a camera. And I have been like learning that, like learning how to talk to people, how to teach others, and that kind of stuff. And that's why I wanted to create a platform, so a Spanish speaking designer can know that they have a place where they can learn everything about surface pattern design.
I love that. Well, first of all, it's totally needed, of course. There's so much. I mean, I have students as well whose native language is Spanish, and it's harder to understand. Like, even you speak wonderful English, but it's so much. That's like 2 processes your brain has to do, right?
Yeah.
It's like you have to figure out what
what they are saying,
and you have to learn the actual
one thing I learned when I was in New York, because I studied fashion design in New York and it was in English. They taught me how to think in the same language you are speaking. So if you are speaking Spanish, you have to think Spanish. If you are speaking in English, you will have to think in English, which is tricky because sometimes I mix the words. Sometimes I'm thinking in Spanish and I'm speaking in English. And for example, my husband says that I am I'm a spoiled girl because sometimes I'm speaking to him in Spanish, and I said a word in English, and he says like, "You are speaking to me. You don't have to mix it." But sometimes it gets mixed in my brain.
Yeah,
But
I can imagine.
but I have students that, for example, your interview is in English and YouTube has the translation in Spanish, and some students told me like, I will see the interview, but my English is not that good, so I will have to watch it like 4 times or many times to understand.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I've
that's
had
one
people
of
say that too about my stuff. Yeah. It's like, oh, I wish, you know, if they speak other languages, it's like, you speak so quickly because of course it's my, you know, you speak so quickly. And so I miss it. And so, yeah, definitely like subtitles. And I mean, and my subtitles are just in English, but at least sometimes reading along can help understand and everything. But so having that platform is just incredible. And I will say that, like, you know, now I follow Happy Pattern and everything. And I'm jealous because I don't understand. So I'm like, this looks like a really cool tip. I wish I knew what it was.
I will put it. I think I will have to put the Happy Pattern post. I will have to put it in English too because
No, that's too much extra work.
I
There's
have
it's
a
out
lot of
there.
people. Yeah, because the name is in English. I have people that think that the platform is in English and they follow me and they send me DMs saying, "Oh, I don't understand what you're saying." So maybe
Well, you know
maybe
what? If I really cared, if I was put enough effort in, I could easily put it into Google Translate and get the idea, right? I know Google Translate isn't perfect, but at least it gives the idea.
Rachel Taylor
Oh yeah,
from what's the
Make It
platform?
in Design, Rachel
Make
Taylor.
It in
Yeah.
Design. She learned Spanish in Cuba. And so one time she said she posted a video saying that she was in Cuba, and I was, oh my God, that's next to my country. You can visit me. And she was, oh, I'm learning Spanish. And then sometimes she follows me, and sometimes she comments in Spanish, and I tell, oh my God, you're speaking Spanish. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I'll just put that on my to-do list. I need to learn some Spanish.
Yeah. But in the platform, right now, I'm relaunching the platform and I'm relaunching new products in the platform, like master classes and courses, because I wanted to have like the whole information that a new designer can have, like the technical side, and then the collection part, like how you can make a pattern and different techniques, you can make a collection, how you can have to plan your portfolio, how you can step into the business side of it, because I learned from someone that it doesn't matter if you didn't study a creative career. Maybe you studied like engineering and you like creative stuff and you want to create digital paper for your birthday or for a friend, and this is a hobby and you can do it. You don't have to make a career out of it. It can be a hobby, but it's something you can learn.
Fun. Yeah. Well, I will put links in the description for all where you can find Laura. And Laura, thank you so much. This was so great. I loved learning more about your career and everything.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
In the description of all my YouTube videos, I have a link to elizabethsilver.com/fresh, which will take you to sign up for my Surface Pattern Boss Toolkit. Once you sign up, you'll get an email to confirm, and then you'll get the password to get into this toolkit where you can find all kinds of resources, surface pattern job guide, business advice, all kinds of trend reports, plus bonus videos, and access to the archives from my newsletters where I have all kinds of cool links and useful creative business advice that you can check out. So I hope you go down to the link and join me. I'd love to have you. And while you're at it, hit subscribe and check out more videos on my channel.